and welcome to Decoding Your Canine Summit. This is the sixth in the Summit series. The sixth. I've been doing this for a while now, and I have over 25 speakers for you. The Summit launches next week. I'm very excited to be able to bring these amazing dog professionals to you and bring their voices to the world. And I'm actually going to run through the list of the speakers and what they're going to be talking about. But firstly, maybe let's do some housekeeping. If you are not receiving your emails, there will be a reason for this. So if you've registered and you're not getting the emails as of next week when the summit is released, it could be for a number of reasons. So make sure you whitelist my email address with your provider. How you do that, I will not be able to tell you because it will depend on who your provider is. But if you Google it or have a look in your web browser and ask them how to do it, that should clear things up. Some people won't be getting them because they've actually been in previous summits perhaps, and maybe they've unsubscribed to my list, in which case you won't be getting emails. I've had that a few times in past summits. Sometimes the email service provider you use will see the email as spam, and that will be why you need to whitelist the email, because if your service provider sees it as spam, obviously then it's going to block it. Also, just check your inbox isn't too full. So there can be a number of reasons. So just check all those things off your list first. Now, the summit does launch next week. This is, for me, in Australia, it will be launched at 6 a.m. on June the 17th. Now, this is a global summit. So there are people from all over the world, from Australia, from New Zealand, from America, all the different time zones in America. There's people in the UK, in Britain, in Europe, Russia, Brazil, India, South Africa, all over the world. So I cannot possibly tell you what time that will be in your location. So the easiest way to determine that is get your web browser, whether you use Google or Firefox or whatever it is, and type in if it is 6 a.m. on June the 17th, or you don't even have to worry about the date. So just type in if it is 6 a.m. in Queensland, Australia, what time is it in, and then you put your own location in. So for example, if I typed in if it is 6 a.m. in Queensland, Australia, what time is it in EST in the US, EST being Eastern Standard Time, Google will pop up with, it will be 4 p.m. the day earlier. So if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it probably will be the day earlier. It'll probably be June the 16th. Everybody will get each day's interviews, unless you've bought the VIP pass, which gives you access for a lifetime. Other than that, you will get each day's interviews released during that morning, my time, again, 6 a.m. I know it's confusing, and you'll have access to that for 24 hours. And then the next day will be released, etc., etc. So I'm very excited. So let's go through the list of speakers. Firstly, day one, we have Linda Michaels. Now, Linda Michaels is she's created what the dog's hierarchy of needs, and her talk is all about the do no harm approach to dog training. So focusing on how we should provide dogs with their needs, obviously with using the hierarchy, and how we can give them the best life, the best training, without using aversives and corrections. Then we have Dr. Laura Donaldson, understanding trauma in dogs. I think this is a really important discussion. Lots of dogs have some sort of trauma, just like we do as human beings. So what can we do to address this? It could be something that is quite obvious. The dog has perhaps been attacked by another dog and now they're fearful of other dogs. But it could be something a little bit more subtle than that too, because dogs perceive their world differently to us. So a dog that is, just because we don't see it as an issue doesn't mean that the dog doesn't see it as an issue. So really interesting conversation. Following that, we have Lizelot Borsma, and she is going to be talking about taking a welfare-based approach, so prioritizing well-being over behaviorism. Really, really interesting conversation. Then we've got Ros Pooley, and she's talking about the nuances of social rehabilitation. So how do we rehabilitate dogs? And been getting down into the nitty gritty a bit more. And then Leigh Damaris, who is talking about big feelings, overreactivity in dogs. Now, overreactivity is a big one for dogs. It's a big one for humans, I should say. It's always a popular conversation, and you'll see there'll be quite a few people talking about that. If not specifically, then we certainly touch on it in our conversation. So definitely listen to that. Day 2, we start with the amazing Sarah Richter. I loved talking to Sarah. I love her approach. I thoroughly recommend watching this if you watch no other interviews. Just really, really good conversation about communicating with dogs, unleashing their voices. And she has a special system that she calls Bark. And I think you'll get a lot out of our conversation. I certainly did. Then we have Ian Shivers, and he is going to be talking about how understanding the enrichment needs of our dogs can help them with reactive cases. So I think that's also a very valuable conversation. Then we've got Julia Robertson, and she is my dog's going to bark. She will be talking about how we can incorporate choice. So how can choice help treat painful conditions? So Julia is from Gallon Myotherapy. She does dog massage, and but she's saying we can, it's hard to treat a dog if they're very, very tense, but by giving them choice and a little bit of autonomy during the treatment process, it can actually help that go a lot better. So it's a good one if your dog's got some issues and needs some physical help. Now, I know this next one is going to be very, very popular. Lisa La Waggoner is talking about recall. We all need a good recall on our dogs, obviously, because it could save their lives. And I think this conversation in particular will be really good for those people that are maybe struggling with the recall of their dogs. Following that, we have another really important topic, which I know will be very interesting to a lot of you watching this, leash walking. How do we get our dogs to walk nicely on the leash or the lead? She's going to be talking about her 3 secrets to doing this. Day 3, we open with Elizabeth Ann Johnson, and she is talking about something a little bit different now. It's know your dog's elemental nature, and it helps to understand their personalities. And she talks about these 5 elements that help us learn who they are, which is an important conversation because it helps us address behavioral issues if we have an idea of why they're doing what they're doing. And then Jennifer Shyrock, kids and children. So the conversation is called, the title is, but he always let the kids ... until obviously something happens. So she that is her focus. She talks about children and dogs and how they can how to manage them together, because it's not always easy. Anke Herman will be talking about rescue dogs. Trust your magnificent mind, how to become the expert in your rescue dog. I know many of you watching this will have rescue dogs, so it's an important conversation. Dr. Christina Shambro is talking about holistic vets, how to find a holistic vet and how they can improve your dog's health. I wholeheartedly agree with this. I myself use a holistic vet. I think I was until they kind of morphed. They've changed their business structure, so I'm not sure how holistic they are now, but I do think holistic vets are very, very important. And you'll actually see, I talked to Dr. Jeff Grognett on day 4 about vaccines, and he is also a holistic vet. Talk about that in a sec. Kathleen Prasad, she will be talking about Reiki, I should pronounce that properly. So how animal Reiki can help your dog thrive. Now, I don't know much about Reiki, so for me, it was an interesting conversation. And I think there's value in it. I think definitely have a listen to that and see if it's something that gels with you. Because anything that we can do to help our dogs is beneficial. So if your dog's struggling, then for me, I like to take, we're just talking about holistic vets. I specialize in separation anxiety, but I do like to take a holistic approach with that. So that could include diet, it could include exercise and enrichment. It includes taking an overall look at the dog and adding as much as we can in to support the dog so that we can get from point A to point B. Amy Snow talks about acupressure, so how it can help your dog with its health. Another important conversation to have. Don't discount this stuff. Day 4, we open with Emily Dustin. She is going to be talking about the reasons for a dog's behavior from puppyhood to adult. And I think that is really valuable because, dogs grow up like humans. They go through a lot of changes, and it's important to recognize that and not expect, a dog that is young to be the same as a dog that is older. And it helps us appreciate why a dog might be behaving the way it is. Kelly Fahy, Reactivity Prevention 101. So often we talk about reactivity as in the dog is reactive. What do we do now to resolve the situation? But Kelly is actually being more proactive with this, and I think this is such a good thing to do, is let's start at the beginning. Let's get the foundations right. Let's stop the reactivity right from the get-go. So she's going to be providing some key strategies for puppy parents to ensure that their dog doesn't become reactive. As I mentioned, Dr. Jeff Grognett, vaccines, one and done. Now, that might be a little bit, for some people. Why on earth would you only give one vaccine? So listen to this conversation. It is really important. Why would he talks us through it? He explains why. He explains it in depth. And I mean, honestly, why would you pump your dog full of chemicals if they don't need it? There are other options in the form of titer testing. And you'll hear me talk about titer testing. It depends. I've always thought it was titer testing, but I think it is titer testing. But anyway, vaccines, one and done. It's different. And I loved his, his justification of why it should be done. And he completely is very clear about it, very scientific about it. And I think every dog guardian should listen to this interview. Elsie Verbeck, she is talking about noise phobias, noise sensitivities, and why dogs react to certain sounds. So I think anybody whose dog, like myself, is a bit, I don't like that, not sure about this. He's very noise phobic. Thunder. Fridays are a nightmare for him because it's bin day. So yeah, really, really good conversation. And then we have Dr. Casara Andre. She will be talking about emotional ergonomics. So the key to having success in animal behavioral cases. And then the last day, day 5, Dr. Megan Barrett is talking about music and sound and how we can use sound therapy to benefit dogs. And I really enjoyed talking to Megan or Dr. Megan. It was really, really, really good information. And, maybe it's taking that holistic approach. How do we use sound or music to help our dogs with behavioral issues? Michaela Lendowski, the power of enrichment. Don't ever underestimate the power of enrichment. It is really important. Can you imagine if you're a dog and you have no enrichment throughout your day? It would just be like they can't read, they can't watch TV, they can't listen to music, or they can't choose what music they listen to. I don't know. But yeah, can you imagine just staring at 4 walls all the time? It would be awful. So don't ever underestimate the power of enrichment. It can do worlds of good for your dog. Rebecca Hanlon, we had a fun conversation. We were talking about grass eating, poo eating, and dirt eating. Why do dogs do it? And what we should do about it. So I think most dogs do one of those 3 things, even if it's just grass eating. So I think a very, very good interview to have a listen to. Carolyn Osborne, loved talking to Carolyn. She was talking about working with nervous dogs. So unfortunately, with the whole COVID lockdown things, we did end up with a lot of nervous dogs, only because they weren't exposed to the world when they were growing up, they were pretty much locked down for a couple of years, especially the young ones. So now we have dogs that are 3, 4, and maybe struggling a little bit with life. So if that's your dog, listen to this interview. And lastly, it's me. Again, I'll be talking about separation anxiety and the alone method, what it is, and why we use it for dogs that struggle with home alone time. That is about it from me. You have the option to purchase the VIP pass if you cannot attend the whole summit, if you miss something. And then that gives you lifetime access. You'll also get audio and you'll also get a workbook with that. But I hope you enjoy it. I'm really excited to bring these amazing speakers to you. And don't forget, each of the speakers or most of the speakers have provided a free gift for you. Some of these are time pertinent, so that means that they're not going to be available forever. So if you want to take advantage of what they're offering, make sure you download it straight away. And we'll see you soon.